Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my Facebook Live. I also want to say hello to all of you who've taken the time to watch the replay of this Facebook. My name is Dr. Jennifer Levin, and I specialize in working with individuals who are living with traumatic loss so they can take their pain and move towards healing. I'm the creator and founder of From Grief to Growth and the podcast Untethered Healing from a Sudden Loss. I'm so happy to report that we're finally getting a little bit of sun here on Whidbey Island in Washington State. And I'm always very interested to know where you're tuning in from. So please leave me a message and let me know where you're watching from. So, on a bit more of a serious note, it's been over a week since the shooting in Texas. And I, for one, am still feeling very, very sick to my stomach. Today, we're going to talk about how to grieve all of the sadness in the world. And I'm going to start off by introducing some new terms to you. And the first one that I want to talk about is the term collective grief. And collective grief happens when a community, a society, a village, or a nation all experiences an extreme change or a sudden loss. And I think it's pretty fair to say that we've been experiencing collective grief as a nation for the last couple of years. I mean, it was just recently that we hit the oh my goodness, the million number of people that we've lost to the pandemic who've died from this disease. There's been countless number of shootings that we've experienced, most recently with all these children who were killed last week. And there's been so many other countless number of random acts of violence. There's been the war in Ukraine, and there's probably been so many other deaths that I can't even think about on top of that. Individually, I can't imagine that anyone has escaped a loved one who has not died in the past couple of years, whether it's been a sudden death or an anticipated death. And everyone I know has experienced an extreme change due to the pandemic, even if it's not been a loss of life. There's been loss of jobs, loss of financial stability, change in family situations, health changes, and I could go on and on and on. And this has been so difficult for everyone to bear. And this leads me to my next term, which is what I call grief overload. And when you experience grief overload, it's like you're up to here in grief. You can't take any more in. And this is a state where you become numb to it. Um, you've lost the ability almost to react and to feel, to cope, or to handle it anymore. I mean, how much or how many times have you turned on the news and you just like, you can't even react? What happened in Texas was so extreme that I think it hit each of us super hard. But if you watch the nightly news, you may not even be able to react to all of the difficult things or the terrible things that are happening anymore. And grief overload can be detrimental to your physical and your mental health. Often, you may know that you're experiencing grief overload when you feel powerless in its wake. You feel that you have no control anymore over what's happening, and you feel really, really overwhelmed by everything that's going on, and especially after what happened last week in the world. And so there's just this sadness right now. And what do we do with this sadness? How do we respond? How do we react? What do we do? I mean, the grief counselor took a grief day last week. How do you carry on with so much sadness in the world? And there are some really healthy ways to cope, and there are some unhealthy ways to cope. So let's start with some things that may not be so helpful. The first thing that's not helpful is not talking about it. If you're one of those people who just sweeps it all under the rug and doesn't say a word, that might not be in your best interest. This is something you've got to address. All of these horrible things that are happening, you've got to find an outlet. You've got to find a way to address it. Whether it's talking about it, whether it's exercising, you've got to journaling, and these are actually getting into all my tips of things that you need to do or might be helpful for you. But don't let everything bottle up inside. You've got to find a way to address it. Number two, don't engage in self destructive behaviors. It can be really tempting to turn to alcohol, to recreational drugs, to overeat, to gamble, shopping. We all have our vices, to spend, become a workaholic, to turn to video games, internet shopping. All of that stuff just numbs us out and it takes us away from what's going on because there's so much sadness. Try and acknowledge, uh-oh, this is something I'm doing, and get some help or kind of advert and go or redirect and do some other things if you recognize that you are going into those patterns. Um, and also try and stay away from getting into arguments with your friends about political things. I've noticed so many people turning the what's going on into the world into political arguments and getting into huge, huge family feuds or losing friendships over this. And it's really your anger and your frustration about what's happening in the world. That's not very helpful either. So, what are some things that you can do? Well, you can publicly mourn what's happening and you can privately mourn what's happening. And I actually recommend a little bit of both. After the tragedy last week, I've seen so many people come together, and that's been one of the highlights, if you can call it that, is to watch people come together to support one another, to find a way to make a difference. And maybe you're someone who finds comfort in others, especially groups of others. You can get on social media and you can talk about how you're feeling. You can congregate with others. Social media can be a really powerful place to not only collectively mourn with others, but to congregate and to take action. You can write letters to your congressman, to other social action committees. Be vocal, go to vigils, find out ways to volunteer, to donate your time. But it can be very helpful to grieve. I know I'm combining two things in terms of take action, which I'm going to talk about next, but to grieve collectively, to feel like you're part of a community can be very helpful during a time like this. But it's also important to take time for yourself and to mourn on your own. This may involve crying. This may involve journaling. This may involve praying, talking to a therapist. Do whatever you need to do, but make sure you acknowledge those feelings and that you get them out. What I just started to talk about, take action. Do something to restore your feelings of control. After a shooting or something like this happens, we feel so helpless. We feel so powerless. We feel like there's nothing we can do. There's always something you can do. So if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling um, that you have a need to do something, identify a way that you can take action, because sitting in your anger isn't going to help at all. It's just going to actually fuel your desire to engage in a unhealthy coping mechanism, which I was referring to either earlier. The next thing to do, talk about it. Talk about it with family, talk about it with friends, talk about it with a therapist, talk about it with a religious support group, whatever. talk about it. We can't let things like this stay silent. And so, whether you're talking about your feelings, whether you're talking about ways to cope, whether you're talking about actions to take, talk about it. The more we talk about it, the more likely we are that your feelings will get processed and worked through, and that actions and change will occur. The next thing, and I talked about this in my last Facebook Live, is find good in the world. During times like this, it can be so difficult to feel like there's anything good, but I guarantee you, good still exists. You just might have to look a little bit harder. But put yourself on a mission to go out there and find good in the world. And last, make sure, but most importantly, make sure you surround yourself with the people that you love. As you've seen, unfortunately, those that we love can be taken from us at any time. So don't take them for granted. Tell those that you love how much you love them and spend as much time with them as that you possibly can. So thank you so much for listening today. I invite you to go to my website, fromgriefToGrowth.com. Please sign up for my mini course, 3 Truths for Living with a Sudden and an Unexpected Loss. I also invite you to subscribe to my podcast, Untethered: Healing from a Sudden Death. You can listen on Apple, Spotify, and Google. I'll be releasing my next podcast a week from today, and it's entitled It All Sucks: Major Challenges of Living with a Sudden Loss. All this information is also going to be posted on Facebook. I always welcome your comments, questions, and concerns, and you can always reach out and email me at info@fromgrieftogrowth.com. Take care of yourself. It's a tough world out there. Bye for now.